Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is recording this episode while floating in the air on a lawn chair that is kept aloft by many helium balloons. It's Tom Tresimer.
Whoa, here, I'm groping it back in.
All right.
Hey guys, how is everyone doing?
So pop, you pop in these things to get back to Earth? You keeping a good
I'm
altitude?
popping them to get them back down.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you floating by. You were looking
Hey, I was just hanging out. I was just floating.
And it seemed really relaxing.
It was. I want to get one of those more reclining chairs though. Like those are just like the old 80s.
Yeah.
You know, just like the almost like the rubber tube stretched across them. Like I'm going for like those ones with like the nice like leg kickback thing and all that.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
like a little
nice.
rock.
That's the one thing I was worried about because you're kind of seated straight up right now.
Yeah, that part's not very comfortable. My back's a little stiff this morning from it, so I'm gonna I'll work on that later in my downtime.
Just don't in your underground bunker that is led by a roller coaster type machine, a train.
Yes, with random graffiti on the walls speckled throughout.
Now, this movie, right? So we're talking about Real Genius, and it's basically the third part of our Hacker Trilogy, basically, because we did. What, Live Free or Die Hard?
Live Free, Die Hard.
Then we did Hackers. And now we're doing the 1985 Real Genius, which involves hacking.
Yes.
Is this a coincidence? That was a coincidence, correct?
Or it was just expertly planned by us. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, we should have taken credit for it, but I think we just naturally got there. Because you pitched you pitched Hackers and Real Genius, and then I threw Good Day to Die Hard to you. No, wait, yeah, Live Free or Die Hard.
Live Free or Die Hard.
Ooh, Good Day or Die Hard. That's a bad movie.
We could do that one too.
No,
bad movie.
No way. That's a bad movie that you can't enjoy. That one just sort of hurts your soul, at least for me.
And I know we were kind of on the hacker binge, and so then we started thinking, you know, where do we go from here? Let's go back to the 80s where it all began.
And
that's where you find it all on Pacific Tech University in California.
That's right. And created by or directed by Martha Coolidge?
Yes. This movie, on Pacific Tech campus.
I love Martha. We did an episode on this podcast about Valley Girl, and I started researching Martha Coolidge, the director, and she's awesome, Tom. I love how she took Valley Girl, right? They were supposed to really focus on the Valley Girl speak, but she only did it in the beginning of the movie. Then she made a very thoughtful kind of teen romance, college romance, despite the studio wanting like 4 pairs of mandating that she had 4 instances of nudity, that she had this, that, and the other. And that movie was a success in '83, and it led her to this. And she turned Real Genius down, 2-3 times?
Yeah, from what I've read, yeah.
I kind of love it. And she's like, well, I'm not going to make this movie. I'm not making Porky's in a tech school that's the equivalent of like MIT.
Not just going to make another run-of-the-mill, like Revenge of the Nerds type of thing either.
And she spent months researching this movie. They researched lasers. You know what I thought was funny? The cinematographer, they came across a problem where in this movie there's a lot of laser work. They didn't know how to film the actual lasers because it didn't show up on film. So they had to add a lot of smoke, which is good for the special effects guys. That gave them some money.
And what's really interesting about that is that it makes me wonder if that's where a lot of this originated from this movie. But nowadays, when you're working on set, you very rarely have, I shouldn't say very rarely, but it's odd when you don't have some sort of atmospheric smoke on a set to enhance the lighting or the mood of it.
Yeah, we've all, on this pod, we've also talked about like Sleepy Hollow, which was all Tuba Death. And then we had that movie Strangers Pray at Night, which was all, there's tons of, you know what tubes of death are, of course, right?
Yeah, the big giant worm tubes that shoot out all the smoke that they drag through the woods and such.
I taught that to my students, and they made that that made them really happy. But I dig how they had to figure out how to film lasers in this movie. And I like that a lot of the characters came from actual interviews that Martha Coolidge did at the university where they filmed. Like I dig that. And I also like that the guy who pulled off the popcorn gag was named Ron Cobb.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Isn't that perfect?
Is it COBB?
Yes.
That's great.
I saw it and I was like, I'm so happy right now.
That is fantastic.
So why did you recommend this movie to me? Did you watch this in the 80s? Did you watch it in the 90s? Like, how long has this movie been a part of your life?
It's gotta be around 93 to 94 when I first watched it. I want to say I used to have an old 13-inch tube TV that had the dials on it. And so channel 13, it was almost always on channel 13 because that's what Encore was on. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic movie channel Encore. But I was watching something else at the time, and my sister burst into the room It just flipped that tube TV to channel 13 and said, you have to watch this movie. You're going to love it. And I didn't even know. I think a lot of the jokes at the time were well over my head, and I didn't even understand what I was watching, but I had so much fun. I wanted to see it again, but I never knew the name of it. And so then it was probably 4 or 5 years later, it just happened to come back on TV again. And that time I was able to like record it on an old VHS. And since then I've loved it.
Yeah, so how old were you when you watched it the first time, would you say?
Best guess is 7 or 8, probably.
Got it. That's what I love about these 80s movies is you watch a lot of them when you're 7, 8. Like, let's say this, Ferris Bueller, those kind of movies. And you laugh at certain elements, but so you're young, but then you become a teenager and they become cooler for different reasons. Then you get older and they become like worse or better for other reasons. So I like growing up with these 80s flicks.
Yeah, it's what's great, especially with this, is it's so endearing and almost it's just kind of a rascally movie,
Yeah,
but it's so charming
word. Yeah.
while doing it. It's so innocent, but also in depth, and it's got some good lessons in it that it just kind of transcends this time, really.
No, absolutely. And I like what Ebert had to say about it. He said, Real Genius was directed by Martha Coolidge, who made Valley Girl one of the best and most perceptive recent teenage movies. What I like best about her is she gives characters the freedom to be themselves. They don't have to be John Belushi clones or fraternity jocks or dumb co-eds. They can flourish in all their infinite variety as young people, with a world of possibilities and a lot of strange, beautiful notions. Real Genius contains many pleasures, but one of its best is its conviction that the American campus contains life as we know it. So these kids, man, Val Kilmer's awesome in this movie. I just dig all the characters, actually. I even like Kent. You kind of feel bad for him a little bit. And the big jerk, yeah.
There's no cookie cutter character in the movie. I mean, you get sent down to some, the third degree characters that are lower than everybody else. But it's like, for the most part, anybody that has any solid quality time on camera, they've got some sort of story that you can relate to, or something that you can dive into a bit.
Yeah.
So that's what's fun with it, is that they're not out there filling a purpose. They've all got something to contribute to the overall story.
And I forget his name, but one of the kids working on the laser, he's given himself shock treatments to get rid of his stutter. And the professor notices that, like Professor Jerry Hathaway.
Bodie.
Yeah, so
I think his name is.
I love that. I love that, even those side characters. And I think a lot of that comes down to Martha Coolidge as well. And the script was written by Neil Israel, who also did he worked on Clueless, Surf Ninjas, and Bachelor Party. And then there's another he worked on Police Academy, Real Genius, Look Who's Talking 2. So it was a really interesting writer for this movie. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like it did its research. There's some really funny there's some iconic lines in here. So I don't know. This is the first time I watched it is because you recommended it to me.
So that guy's name was, I'm sorry, the dude who did the shock treatments, his name was Bodie in the movie.
Nice.
Tom Swerdlow.
He was funny. I like that guy.
He was funny, and get this, he had some pretty crazy 80s movies that he was involved in, too. Not to get sidetracked too much here.
Sidetrack.
Child's Play, Hamburger Hill, Spaceballs, and Howard the Duck. He was in all those.
Really? I could retire with that. I would quit. I'd be like, you know what? I did enough. I was in Howard the Duck.
I did Howard the Duck, biggest 80s movie around, so I'm done.
I can live off this. I can go to Comic-Cons for the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah, and the dialogue and the one-liners in this movie are just, I think maybe that's what brings me in, is that I've watched this movie probably 15 times, but the dialogue and just the witty banter back and forth never gets old.
I love there's a scene where Hathaway is talking to Chris Knight. He's like, I want to see more of you in the lab. And then Chris Knight, Val Kilmer goes, I'll gain weight.
Yes.
It's such a smart ass thing to say, but it's so on point for him.
It's so good.
And I like that he's never mean to Mitch, the main protagonist in this movie. He takes Mitch under his wing. He's not the jerk. He doesn't have to earn anyone's approval. And I also like that Mitch in this movie, he starts college at 15. And he's still very much a kid in this movie. And I kind of like that about him.
And I think that's ultimately, you fast forward throughout. I wonder if that's part of the reason that Chris Knight asked for Mitch to room with him to begin with, to kind of help more or less ease him into the college transition so he doesn't become, what Chris used to be, as he says, all brains, no penis, kind of just hopped up on intellect with nothing else left to offer. He doesn't want to become another Laszlo Holyfeld.
Oh, I love Uncle Rico in this movie.
So Laszlo Holyfeld is the legend genius from this Pacific Tech University that kind of has a mental breakdown and disappears, and he ends up going and living in the steam tunnels underneath the university. But the only way to access his living quarters is through the closet in Mitch's and Chris's dorm room.
How long did it take him to build that, do you think?
Oh man, it's pretty complex. I mean, it's like Goonies before Goonies. It's like Goonies with technology right there to get down to this guy's living area.
He had to add conveyor belts. How did he get that material down there? He must have gone through the basement, not through that secret door.
He must have, yeah. And then I guess the secret door is what allowed him to continue to do it. I don't know. But boy, you would think man, something's drawing some serious power here to the basement with all these computers. What's going on? And then they just follow the tracks back up, and it comes out of some 18-year-old's closet.
And he's down there trying to win, a Frito-Lay's contest?
A Frito-Lay's contest.
And he figures out how much that he'll win in that. I love that bit.
Supposedly, all of that is also, semi-based on true events from Caltech University that this whole movie is kind of based off of, is the Caltech laser program.
I mean, it's, and I read an article about who the character Jordan is based on. And I guess she did show up to the interview. So Jordan, played by Michelle Mayrink, she shows up with a bunch of bangs, speaking in a different cadence, was sleeping at 3 hours, sleeping 3 hours a night. She knit a sweater the night before and wore it. So a lot of these characters are based on real life characters, which I thought was really kind of cool of Martha Coolidge. But she wrote an article recently for the 30th anniversary wishing that there was more females in the movie. Even at the time, there was 7-1 at the school, Caltech, 7-1, male to female. And she said that a lot of people loved her in that movie because, I don't know, I guess in 85, she's a unique character, right? She's not
She's not your prototypical, romantic lead for a female character. And even to this day, she's probably not. And even though she doesn't fall in, she's not pigeonholed into anything.
She gets with Mitch, but I mean, that's cool. Then she doesn't really need him, though. That's the thing. That's why I kind of like her.
I mean, she's dorky, she's quirky, she's got those hardcore 80s bangs, but there is an attractiveness and funness about her too, from her pure intellect. Mitch walks in on her at midnight and she's in there sandblasting her door.
She drove her roommate
sandblasting her floor.
She drove her roommate crazy, literally crazy. Which I could see. I guess somebody had a major meltdown with her. I don't know if you remember. Oh, man.
Yeah, she's fun.
Yeah, so, I don't know. And also I like that, in this movie, she's not the third wheel. She's in there working on Kent's teeth. She's doing the hacking. She's a major part of this, which I thought was refreshing. Because as much as I like, movies like The Goonies or other things like that, they are kind of relegated to secondary characters. But once again, I think that goes back to Coolidge directing this.
Yeah, she didn't get pushed to the background at any point.
I do love the beginning of the movie. So the movie's plot is you have this super jerk teacher, professor, played by William Atherton, who's been a jerk in more movies than I could count. He wants his students to build a weapon for the military. So they end up building this weapon. They find out that they've been used. Then they go to stop the weapon. Then they blow up Hathaway's house and make 190,000 pounds of popcorn explode throughout his home that they built in the middle of nowhere, California, which I love. But I don't know, man. But I like in the beginning how he shows the military people are showing the trailer. And they shot a commercial for a laser, which I kind of love.
They did. They shot a promo video for a hypothetical weapon that hasn't even been created yet.
That was expensive. They used actual... They spent...
How much crossbow project.
How much do you think... And it's like shooting ducks in a barrel, which is funny. How much do you think that commercial cost, and how long did it take? So you're an AD, and you're working on that. How long is that shoot for you?
Oh, man. Probably at least a couple week shoot right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it truly depends on how crazy the government went. Did they actually film this in outer space?
And this is a secret project, too, correct?
It is a top secret project.
And they're filming commercials.
Where they want to use a laser, a target tracking laser, to vaporize a human target from space.
I mean, I guess that's more humane than a bomb.